Welcome to Steel Mindset. My name is Joe Steel. Now, the reason I'm making this video, I'm bringing you this video, is by special request. People out there are not really aware of how to maintain their katana blades, what to maintain, when to maintain their katana blades, and with what materials and what they need to use in order to maintain their katana blades. I actually had some sword distributors that had asked me to make a video like this so they can reference it to their new customers that are getting into katana blades for the first time, because a lot of people don't know that owning, one of these katana blades, which is, pretty much any one you want to pick in the back here, they're all high carbon steel blades, and there's a certain responsibility that should be included in owning one of these blades and how you maintain it and how you keep it preserved and keep it going. High carbon steel blades are prone to rust. It's basically it's the general difference between stainless steel and high carbon steel. High carbon steel has a high iron content. So high iron content, think of it as like just kind of raw iron that if it's not treated with certain chemicals like stainless steel, that it will rust. Technical definition of high carbon steel and why it rusts, so you can hear it from the pros. High carbon steel blades are prone to rusting because have a high iron content and the lack of chromium. Chromium is the key element, one of the key elements in stainless steel that gives it that rust prevention type of accolade. The chromium necessary to form a protective layer against corrosion, making them highly susceptible to oxidation. That's the key. Oxidation when exposed to moisture, which is primarily the cause of rust. It's not a stainless steel blade. It's not like a kitchen knife or anything like that. That's why kitchen knives, you can wash them, put them in the dishwasher, cut with higher acidic types of foods and things like that, and they won't rust because stainless steel has that property of not rusting. But when you're dealing with a blade like this, a shinken is really what it's called, a live blade in Japanese. These blades have a high carbon content. That's why these blades are so good. They have the edge retention. They're tough. They can cut. They can do so many things for you because they are high carbon steel blades, but you have that responsibility of knowing how to care for them. So let me show you the 3 times that it is necessary for you to maintain your katana blade. Now, the first time is going to be when you first get it out of the box from the manufacturer. You don't know how long it's been sitting, if it's been shipping from overseas, and how long it's been shipping with the oils that they put on it, and also if it's been in a factory in the States for how long. You definitely want to open it up and maintain it immediately, which I'm going to show you how to do. Now, this blade came to me by accident. It's a no brand. I'm sure it has a brand, but I don't know what brand it is because it was shipped to me by a sword manufacturer by accident, so I have no idea what brand it is. I don't think it's a very expensive blade for the most part, but this is literally brand new out of the box. It's a pretty nice saya, nice painted saya. Don't ask me where this came from because I have no clue. Now, if you notice, the suka is also wrapped up to make sure the ito is in shape. It's not really what it's about. Also understand that when you do remove, if you ever take these swords apart, some of the better quality swords, you can take them apart. They're not glued in or anything like that. They say that you can get rust on the tang. I personally use gloves if I am handling the tang, because any type of fingerprints that you get onto the tang, which I'll get to on the blade, can turn into rust. So you want to handle it with gloves and just make sure you don't touch it up or finger it up to the tang when you're taking it apart. Okay, so the key element or the key ingredient to stop rust or avoid rust on a high carbon steel blade is to place different types of oil onto the blade or make it sit in the saya, which is a scabbard, with a base of oil on it. Now, there's different types of oil you can use, but I'm going to show you when you first get out of the box. Normally, the blade is usually wrapped up. Ooh, it's a mess. It's usually wrapped up in like this plastic wrap type of thing because they probably oiled it up, and it's a better way to basically keeping the oil on the blade by keeping it in plastic. So what you want to do is immediately, very carefully, unpeel all the plastic off. There's going to be a base oil there, so start from the bottom by the habaki, and just usually it's like kind of like pulling off. I don't mean to be gross, but it's kind of like pulling off a condom. You just kind of pull it right off, and it just kind of slides off in place, and just try to keep all the plastic in one piece, because you don't want to place pieces of plastic back into the saya because it's going to sit there. It's not going to you know, affected or anything. It'll stay oiled, but you don't want to keep plastic in the side all the time. You want to keep it neat. Now, I have no idea what blade this is. Is this even sharp? Actually, it is pretty freaking sharp. It's probably some kind of a painted type of blade. It's looks like it might be a through hardened blade. I don't know what steel it is, but whatever it is high carbon steel because it is oiled. It's definitely oiled really well. So what you want to do is you need to wipe the oil off. You need to get rid of all the old oil that's on here. Now, your best friend in maintaining your sword is going to be this guy right here. This is a spray bottle, but what's in the spray bottle is regular rubbing alcohol, like 75 strength, doesn't have to be 91. Regular rubbing alcohol, the alcohol you would use to kind of just, you know, maybe clean off, disinfect certain surfaces or clean off a cut that or scrape or something like that. And it burns like hell. You want to use regular rubbing alcohol. This is the best solution for you to spray onto the blade to clean off any of the old oil and also after you do cutting. So what you want to do is you want to take it, put it in a spray bottle because it's the easiest way to apply it onto the blade and it'll really go evenly all over it. So you want to take the spray bottle and you just want to open it and you just want to spray it all along the blade and be generous with it, because especially when you first get it. You want to get a clean cloth. It's not that important for this, but for this point, but you want to generally do a soft towelette type of thing or a shop vac, some kind of a soft but strong cleaning cloth, like one of these like big lunch napkins are probably pretty good, or like these bathroom napkins at these fancy catering halls. That's usually where I get them from. And you want to take it, be very careful because you're dealing with a live blade. You want to go from the base, okay? Not from the point. Hold it from the base so your fingers are not on the point, and pull out. Take it from the base to the habaki and pull out to the point to the kasaki. Okay, do it a couple times, fold it over, maybe rub it in, and just really get any of that oil that's on there. You can see that oil that's coming off. The alcohol does an amazing job of removing all the residue of the old oil off the blade. And if you feel like it's still on there, you can readjust it. And you can actually see it actually looks pretty good. It's not a bad looking blade. I think it's kind of like a painted type of surface. It's a true hardened blade, but I gotta tell you, it's pretty damn sharp. I think this thing will probably cut pretty well. I have no idea the brand. It's a very cheap like alloy type of Suba, but maybe I'll do a review of it. But I saved opening this sword to get this done, so you can see what I did. So now it's a completely clean blade. Now understand, other things that can also rust your blade are fingertips. If you're doing a review, you're talking over it, the spit particles that may come out of your mouth as you're speaking, or even your hot breath, I don't mean to be gross, even your hot breath can cause condensation to rest on the blade. And if you're in a high humidity area, it will rust the blade. If you kind of finger up this blade, or if you touch the blade here and there, I'd never recommend touching the blade. You should never put your fingers directly onto the blade. Sometimes you could use the outside of your hand, but never physically touch up the blade. Obviously it's sharp too, and you want to be careful with it, but you never want to touch up the blade because the oils from your hands can cause it to rust. And again, I'll go back to the technical explanation of that. High carbon steel blades are prone to rusting from fingerprints because the natural oils and acids present in sweat on our fingers can accelerate the oxidation process when left on the blade, especially in the presence of moisture, making the steel highly susceptible to rusting, particularly due to its already lower corrosion resistance compared to stainless steel. Don't ever touch the blade, and try not to speak over the blade if you're looking to store it, break it directly into the saya. Now, if you notice, when you see Japanese masters, basically after they forge a blade and they're kind of just looking at the blade, and they usually use a cloth or some kind of a rice cloth to look at the blade, and they basically inspect the blade to see if there's any bends or anything like that. You notice how they're holding their breath not to breathe onto the blade to get some oxidation onto the blade. Now, I don't know if that's true, but I'm assuming that's just what they do. But it looks like they're kind of holding their breath. They're not talking over it. It's a very silent process, a very calming, silent process. You never see them talking or conversing with anybody as they're inspecting the blade, not to get the oxidation from maybe spit or hot breath on your mouth to get onto the blade, because it can cause it to rust. Now, simply speaking, if that was to happen, and as I'm speaking on the blade, which I am, just take it and just wipe it off. Wipe off any fingerprints, maybe spray some more alcohol on it, and just completely wipe it off again. And that's all you need to do. It's just a matter of just wiping it off and making sure you have a clean blade. This is a cleaning kit from Mini Katana, but you can get from many type of Japanese shops or even on Amazon. A lot of these Japanese style cleaning kits. Now, what they come with, the traditional way of cleaning off a blade, the oil that they use, Japanese style samurai use for ancient times, are clove oil. It's called koji oil, and it's a mixture of clove oil and mineral oil. And that's usually that's very popular to be used. Here is the cloth that can be reused over and over again. And here is the stone, I forget exactly what this is called. This is made to polish up the blade. It has like little tiny stone dust that you can tap onto the blade. Maybe I'll do a video with that one day and show you how traditionally it's done. And this is also the rice cloth that's enclosed to wipe off the residue from the old oil, and then use this cloth to oil it up again. So it's a whole system involved. Now, you can do it your traditional way, or you can basically find your own way of doing it. Now, the koji oil can be a little expensive. What I have been using for many years is straight mineral oil. Now, you see this is just plain CVS, any type of brand, mineral oil, pure mineral oil. I have been very successful in maintaining my blades with this one bottle mineral oil. I think that this one bottle mineral oil has lasted me for at least 3 years now, and look how much is still left. You only need a thin film on the blade to maintain it. So you can use this for many years, even a bottle this size. And it's a cheap alternative, and it does a great job in maintaining the blade. Straight mineral oil is all you need. If you want to go the traditional way, obviously go with the koji oil. If you want to be a traditionalist and just do it the way it was, I think it's a fun way of doing it as well. And I'll probably do a video with cleaning it the traditional way as well. There's other oils you can use. I actually, from time to time, I use the gun oil, which is this CLP oil, and it's kind of a firearm gun oil. The CLP is actually really good as well. And this is sometimes I use this type of oil to if I'm going to basically store it for a very long period of time. I get one of these cloths over here, and these cloths are kind of like the soft terry cloths, and I keep it in a plastic bag, and I keep it oiled in here. Now, what I usually do is I get like a little application bottle with the mineral oil, and I usually kind of throw it in here, okay, and it stays oiled in here. Mix it around a little bit, and always keep it in the same bag, and you know that basically you can reuse this over and over again. Now, only apply the oil on a blade that it's already been cleaned with alcohol, and there's no residue, no glue or anything like that on there. So what you want to do is you want to take it, again, the same way that you clean it, and then a well-oiled cloth, you kind of just spread it right up into the blade. And if you want to just get into the Mune, you can do that. You can get into the Bohe. This actually has Bohe. It's not a bad-looking blade. Not a big fan of the painted type of section of the blade, but I think it's just not. It's not a bad-looking blade. It's actually pretty sharp. It's got the Bohe. It looks pretty good. Okay. So I don't know if you can see it, but this is an oiled blade. So I have a base of oil on here. You can see how it's glimmering a little bit more, okay? And this is now ready for basically taking the blade and putting it right into the saya. And now the sword, you can store it on a rack or whatever the case is, and it's ready to be stored once it's oiled. All right, guys, now the second important moment that you need to maintain your blade. If you take your swords off the rack and if you cut with them, if you actually do real cutting with the swords, tamashigiri, cutting water bottles, if you do traditional tatami mats, Whatever the case is, whenever you're doing any type of cutting with the sword whatsoever, even if it was oiled before, which obviously you want to also wipe off the oil before you cutting with it. It just makes it a little neater that way, so at least the glue and the tatami doesn't stick to it. Whatever the case is, I just mentioned that. But after you wipe that off and you do any cutting with it, you want to take the sword, and I'll show you another sword here from Shadow Dancer. Okay, I did a lot of cutting with the sword. I have since recently cleaned it. But what you want to do is, even before you put it into the saya, you should have wiped it down. So if you're cutting water bottles or anything like that, you never want to place this blade back into the saya. Because basically exactly what you're doing is you're taking a wet blade that's not wiped off and putting the moisture in the saya, which means the water is going to stay in the saya and it's going to rust your blade immediately. So you want to make sure after you do any cutting with it whatsoever, especially water bottles, you want to wipe it down to a dry blade before you put it away. Now, if you're cutting tatami mats with it, if you're cutting water bottles that also have, glue, you're cutting into plastic, you're cutting into glue residue and stuff like that, you want to wipe it down. Now, again, the same thing that I showed you before about wiping it down, you want to always use alcohol, at least if you have it handy, always keep it with you, because that is the best way to clean it. Now, you see I have a bag of these cleaning cloths. Always have these very these soft but very rough and tough cleaning cloths to clean off your blade. Okay, so now what we want to do is, again, this is a blade that I use. I have tatami residue on here and stuff like that. It is clean, but I'll show you for argument's sake. You spray it up again. Take a clean cloth. It's got to be a clean cloth, not a cloth that you kind of wipe your mouth after dinner. It's got to be a very clean cloth with no residue, also no lotions or creams on it, no aloe on it or anything like that. Like those tissues that have the aloe on it, you want to keep it, make sure it's a clean cloth with nothing on it, and you just wipe it up and down. Now, if you have anything with residue, you can rub it in and place more alcohol in it and just get that glue right off. And believe me, the alcohol does a great job. If you want to do more passes, you could do up to 3 passes if you want. Alcohol does not affect the blade. And the great thing about alcohol is the fact that it will dry and dissolve on the surface, so no residue stays on the surface. It becomes a very dry blade. So now that I cut with this blade and I cleaned it off again, then I can also begin to oil it again. Now, also, if there are scratches that are inherent on the blade that don't come off with just the alcohol, you want to try to think about polishing up the blade. The blade polish takes off a very thin microscopic layer of steel, and it'll take off surface scratches or any type of glue residue. So you want to use something like Mother's Mag to base up the blade. Now, I have done many videos, and I'll try to leave links. I actually just did a live where I did sharpening and using this stuff with some knives. You can use a clean cloth as well to wipe it down. Now, I'm going to use the CLP oil this time around. So you get that oil there, you kind of just base it all along the blade. You can be generous with it. Take a clean cloth, or at least clean side of the cloth, and just kind of rub it right onto the blade. It's actually leaking off already. Right onto the blade, onto the mune, onto the base of the point. Just be very careful, again, not to cut yourself. And you have a well-oiled blade. It's that easy, guys. And you place it right into the saya. Try not to breathe on it. And this sword has been cut with. I just cleaned it off. No glue, no residue. It's oiled up and it's ready to be stored for a set period of time. The third moment that you need to maintain your blade is for a period of months, depending on the area that you live in. Now, guys, let's get into the storage time frames. Now, if you are living down south and if you are living in a very high humidity areas where you need to re-oil the blades, I would say it could be as little as 2 to 3 months that you need to basically go in, do the process like you got it brand new, wipe off the old oil, alcohol it up, make sure it's nice and clean, and re-oil it in order to store it again. The oil does wear into time, and you need to reapply the oil to stop it from rusting. It's something that you need to do to maintain your blade. It's not that you just oil it up and leave it on a rack and forget about it for years. Depending on the climate, and if you're putting into the sword into a temperature control or not, especially if you have straight high humidity, don't throw it in a closet. Never throw your swords in the closet. Try to keep them in open area, open air, the least humidity areas as possible. Get a dehumidifier possibly in that room and try to take the humidity or the moisture out of the air to stop it from oxidizing. But regardless, if you are in an area down south, you want to maintain your blades every 2 to 3 months. Now, if you are in a temperature controlled area up north or less humidity, even if you're in a humidity area, but if you keep these swords in a temperature controlled zone where you have less humidity, you could probably last around 6 months or more. You could probably keep a nice good base of oil without having to worry about it rusting. Obviously check it every once in a while for the most part to know that the swords will be stored on your rack and with a good base of oil and they won't rust. So guys, in review, here are your 3 times. When you first get the sword out of the box, you want to make sure you remove the plastics, anything that's on the blade, remove all of the older oils completely with alcohol, with rubbing alcohol, preferably in a spray bottle. Clean it off, okay, with a clean cleaning cloth, and take off the old oils and put a nice base of oil. Rehash again, if you cut with the swords, clean off the swords, clean off any residue before you ever put it back into the saya. Alcohol it up, oil it up, and then you can store it. Every certain amount of months, depending on the area that you live in, you need to maintain your blades, take off the old oil and put new oil on. If you follow these processes, guys, your high carbon steel blades will last you a very long time, if not a lifetime. You need to know that you have a responsibility to maintain these blades. I know this sounds very temperamental, but high carbon steel blades, this is the nature of them. They're great steels to cut with and last in longevity, but they are temperamental because of the less corrosion resistance to stainless steel. That's maintenance on your blades, guys. I hope this helped you out. Again, there's a couple different options here. If you have any questions whatsoever, please leave them in the comment section. Engage with me. I'm here to help you. I'm here to inform you as far as how to maintain your blades. But again, always inspect the blade when you first get it. If there is any rust straight from the manufacturer, you definitely want to address it. But if you're looking to store this thing after a month, and if you don't store it the right way and you throw it in the closet, you don't oil it up, it will rust on you. So it's not the manufacturer's fault. It is your responsibility to take care of your high carbon steel blades, to maintain them after you own them. This is Joe Steel, Steel Mindset, signing out. I'll see you when I see you. Ciao. Take care of your blades.